What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 85 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. I'm your host, Zach Malum. But before we get started, please subscribe below. Follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off in the world of baseball, as both New York teams were in action this weekend. And let's start things off with the New York Yankees up in the Bronx at Yankee Stadium. They started a three-game set against the Baltimore Orioles. Yankees end up dropping the first game 5-3 on Friday evening. Luke Weaver went into that game, his first appearance since coming off the IL, and he just did not look like the same Luke Weaver that we've known all along. Not really a big worry for the Yankees. Of course, it was just his first game back, but it did not help the leadoff home run to Ramon Urias into the Yankee Stadium right field, and that did not help Luke Weaver. I think it caught him by surprise. And then, of course, the traffic that Baltimore caused in that eighth inning, they end up getting another run, and the Yankees end up losing it 5-3. Weaver charged with his second loss of the season. He only went 2/3 of an inning in that eighth inning, and 2 hits allowed, 2 earned runs, a strikeout, and a walk. Just not his best stuff, but you're not worried, like I said, about Weaver. Your first real blip that you saw from Weaver in probably the last year or so. So it's a positive for the Yankees, and in the end, they just move on and go to the next one as they went into Saturday's game then. And really, with Clark Schmidt on the mound, he's been looking really good recently, and he picked up right where he left off. Has a no-hitter through 7. The Yankees end up taking him out of the game. He had 103 pitches he threw in this one, but the Yankees really needed to protect Clark Schmidt and really look at long-term health rather than the no-hitter in this one and 120 pitches, especially a guy like Schmidt who's dealt with injuries year after year, dealt with an injury earlier this season, and that really caused him to not show up until probably around May. And really, when you have a guy like Schmidt, plus the fact that this starting rotation is just dealing with so many injuries, you do not want to risk Schmidt for a no-hitter in a 9-0 game. The Yankees end up giving up the hit. JT Brubaker comes in for his first appearance of the season. He gives up the hit to Gary Sanchez, breaks up the no-hitter, but the Yankees end up still winning that game 9-0. And like I said, you can't really blame Aaron Boone with all the injuries that this starting rotation has dealt with to not put Schmidt out there for another inning with the pitch count as high as it was. So the Yankees end up getting a 9-0 win on Saturday, and you head into Sunday, and you're thinking, all right, 1-1, you cannot drop a series to this struggling Orioles team, especially at home at Yankee Stadium. The Yankees end up finding a way to win this one. 4-2 is the final. Jazz Chisholm Jr. with the 2-run double to save the Yankees in the 8th inning, and the Yankees end up winning it 4-2 after LeMahieu grounded into a fielder's choice, with Chisholm scoring on an error by the catcher Gary Sanchez, former Yankee there, and the Yankees end up winning it 4-2 with Fernando Cruz getting the win in the end and Devin Williams locking things down in the 9th inning for the save. So positive for the Yankees. They end up getting their first series win in a couple of series, dropped the series at Fenway, swept in that series, and then they lost 3 out of 4 to the Angels at Yankee Stadium earlier in the week. They end up getting the series win and a much-needed series win over the Baltimore Orioles. Then you head into this week's series, and you start off with Monday's game, yesterday's game against the Cincinnati Reds. The Yankees started a 3-game set in Cincinnati, and Alan Winans made his first appearance for the Yankees, and his Yankees debut was looking really, really good for the first couple innings of this one. Very low pitch count and got a lot of soft contact in the end. It just did not work out well for him after that, and the Reds really took advantage of him in the 4th and 5th inning. He ends up getting charged with 4 earned runs in the game on just 5 hits. 4 1/3 he goes in this one, only 1 strikeout and no walks. You like the no walks. The strikeout number a little bit lower. He doesn't seem like he's too much of a strikeout pitcher, but the Yankees pitcher just could not give up enough hard contact in this one. He gave up too much hard contact, and that was the difference in the game. You cannot give up too much hard contact to a team like the Cincinnati Reds. they will make you pay. They end up getting a couple of homers in this one. Gavin Lux. They also had Ellie De La Cruz, and De La Cruz had a great game for himself as he had a triple, a single, a homer, was just missing out on that double for the cycle in this one. Goes 3 for 4 with a homer, 3 RBIs, and he's looked pretty solid as the 3-hitter for Cincinnati. So the Yankees dropped the first game. Can't really think too much of it. I think Alan Winans had a good start, like I said, and then it just went downhill from there. The Yankee offense is a little bit slow right now, and that's something that you're going to worry about game to game. They did have 8 hits on the day, though. They had traffic on the bases. The runners in scoring position was a different story, and the left on bases is just not good enough right now for the Yankees, and they really struggle with runners in scoring position in this one, and ultimately that was their downfall. That's the one thing that you're probably worried about is when you get runners on base, when you get traffic there, you got to bring runners in. And the Yankees even struggle to bring a runner on third into the plate. They cannot do that, it seems. Runner on third, 1 out. It's the biggest mistake for the Yankees, and they end up paying for it in most games. So they really struggled in this one, and obviously that's something that they have to bounce back in. But they do play again tonight, a 7-10 start in Cincinnati. It's going to be Carlos Rodon on the mound for the Yankees, coming off of a nice solid outing for himself. 9-5 on the year, 3.10 ERA, and he's going up against Chase Burns, who is going to be making his first appearance of the season. Looks like it's going to be a starter in this one, not an opener, but Chase Burns going to make his first appearance, it seems, and there's a guy in Aaron Judge that really loves playing against rookie pitchers, so we'll see if he can take advantage of Chase Burns tonight. And obviously Carlos Rodon has to have his best stuff. Yankees looking for a win and try and get back in this series in Cincinnati, but make sure you tune in tonight, 7-10 start, as the Yankees take on the Reds at Great American Ballpark. Let's move things to Queens as the New York Mets are really sputtering out of control in the National League East. They've lost 9 of their last 10, and then they head into a series against the Philadelphia Phillies on the weekend where you're thinking maybe they can snap this losing streak. It was at 7 games at the time. They did snap it on Saturday. That was after they lost Friday's opener, 10-2. Reed Garrett charged with the loss in that one, and the Phillies really took advantage of the Mets bullpen in the later innings of this game, and they end up losing it 10-2. Then you head into Saturday's game, and the Mets offense really woke up in this one, and you're thinking, wow, all right, the Mets offense, are they back? Are they really going to take advantage of these couple of series now against Philly and Atlanta? And that really stopped right after that game. Although in that game, Juan Soto, probably his best game as a Met, an 11-4 Met victory. And Juan Soto had 2 homers, went 4 for 5 in that game with 4 RBIs. Phenomenal game from him. And in the bright lights in Philadelphia, you head into Sunday Night Baseball. And if they win that game, the Mets do, you're thinking real positive. You're not even thinking anymore about that 7-game losing streak. But the Mets drop another game and really go back downhill with this offense. 7-1 loss on Sunday Night Baseball. Jesus Luzardo ends up getting his 7th win of the season. After a couple of really rough starts, Mets can't take advantage of Luzardo's pitches. Peterson has his blip in the month of June, and he drops to 5-3 on the season. 5 earned runs in this one did not help his case, and Kyle Schwarber took advantage of him. Edmundo Sosa took advantage of them, and the Mets end up dropping Sunday Night Baseball 7-1. Then they head into this next series against Atlanta, and you're thinking, all right, it's really all downhill right now, but try and take advantage of these Atlanta starters. They did have Paul Blackburn on the mound, the Mets did, and that does not really give Met fans too much confidence, but they did keep this one close. A 3-2 loss in the end, but it came down to Juan Soto having a runner on first and third in the 8th inning, strikes out to end the inning and breaks up the threat. Dylan Lee gets credited with the save, his 2nd of the season, but the Mets drop another game to the Atlanta Braves. That's 4 now to the Braves in the last week, and they end up losing it 3-2. Soto did have the home run, the only 2 runs in this game for the Mets, the 2-run homer into left center, but they cannot really scrap up enough runs to really challenge Schwellenbach in this one, and he had his best stuff, went 7 innings once again against the New York Mets, and the offense is really not looking good. Lindor's not looking great. Alonso's not looking great during this stretch, and the bottom of the lineup has been woeful for the New York Mets, and they've sent a couple guys down because of it. Francisco Alvarez down to the minors. He goes down to AAA. Syracuse, think it's a good move by the Mets to send him down. His bat has not been good this season, and only 3 home runs from a guy that you're expecting a lot of power from. 20-plus home runs, that's what you're hoping for as a Met fan. And he's really giving you anything but. And he really needs time to work on his catching as well. His framing was really good a season ago, and it's been anything but this season. And that's really the case right now for Alvarez. So he's sent down. Acuna is also sent down, a guy that really, when he comes up to bat, is non-existent. When he's on the bases, it really makes an impact, but you can't really have a guy that doesn't do both. Really on your roster. I think that's a big thing for the Mets, and they send him down as well. They need to figure out a way to get another bat. I think David Stearns is already looking for one, and a guy at the bottom of the lineup to really change things for this Mets offense. Ronnie Mauricio, they called up, and they thought he would be a difference maker. Hasn't done that. And I think he's going to end up being the next guy to be sent down when Mark Vientos comes back after his couple of rehab starts. And that's really a big-time storyline for the New York Mets. How can they figure out the bottom of the lineup and the production of the bottom of the lineup? How can they raise that in the next couple of weeks? They're going to need it right now because they're really struggling, especially with the injuries to their pitching staff. It has not looked good recently, and a lot of these starters are going to give up runs. The Mets offense needs to counter that themselves with some runs up on the board. Cannot just be Juan Soto, who's had a really good month of June. Yes, he had the strikeout to really end the game for the Mets yesterday, but he's really been the only bright spot, you would say, in the month of June, and that's the real difference right now. Everybody else around him has really struggled. Jeff McNeil looked pretty good at the start of the month and dropped. And then Brandon Nimmo is another guy who looked pretty solid in the last couple of series, but hasn't really got that over-the-top production that you're looking for. So they need a lot of work, and that's really where the Mets stand right now. I think the pitching staff and the bullpen is the biggest worry because it's going to be a season-long process, and there's not really many guys that you're just going to grab and throw them in there, and they're going to be perfect. I think they really need that development process, and that's something that we did worry about earlier in the season when they were signing all these guys, Clay Holmes, Griffin Canning, certain guys that you really have seen them struggle in the past. Frankie Montas is even another guy. You've seen them struggle in the past, and how they will translate now when things are going right and everything's happy daisy. You get a bad start here and there. How are you going to respond? And it has not been great from some of those Mets starters recently. So they end up losing 3-2 on Monday, and they head into the next couple of games against Atlanta, as this one's a 4-game set at Citi Field, so they do have a chance to bounce back, and they start that tonight. 7:10 start. Frankie Montas coming on and is making his first appearance as a Met, as he's had some rehab starts down in AAA that have been really ugly to watch. You do not want that if you're a Met fan at this time, heading into this game against the Braves. They're going up against Spencer Strider, the Mets are, and they lost to Spencer Strider just a couple of days ago, and he had a solid outing in that one. Really held the Mets at bay. 6 innings strong, just 5 hits allowed, and an earned run in that game with a walk and 8 strikeouts. So he ends up getting his second win of the year in that game in a 7-1 Atlanta win. And in the end, the Mets have to bounce back from that and need to get to Strider in this one, who throws a lot of fastballs. Mets batters really love hitting the fastball this year. So that's going to be a big talking point. Can the Mets offense wake up against a guy like Strider? As they do so at Citi Field, make sure you tune in tonight, 7:10 start. It's Montas against Strider at Citi Field. Let's finish things off today in the world of basketball. And no, it is not the Oklahoma City Thunder winning Game 7 of the NBA Finals. They defeat the Indiana Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton goes out of that one with a torn Achilles, confirmed it, and he's probably going to miss most, if not all, of next season. But there were other news, other storylines coming in from the NBA, one of them being a two-time NBA champion, a 15-time All-Star, and a former MVP in Kevin Durant is shipped away from Phoenix and on to Houston, as the Houston Rockets have traded Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, the number 10 pick in the 2025 NBA draft, and 5 second-rounders. They ship those to the Phoenix Suns, and they get a big-time player in Kevin Durant. I think it's a big deal for the Phoenix Suns to get those guys and get those pieces, but it's also a monster deal in my mind for the Houston Rockets, who were looking for a guy, looking for a difference maker that they could pair with their young core there in Houston. Alperen Sengun, they got Fred VanVleet around him. They got a lot of young players, Thompson, Smith, a bunch of young guys that they could really rely on. And Jalen Green, who, of course, is one of the top players on the Houston Rockets, I just don't think he brings them over the top when it comes to winning an NBA championship. They pair him now as well, Kevin Durant, with a very strong coach in Ime Udoka that will know how to play him and know how to really figure things out to try and win an NBA championship and bring an NBA championship back to Houston. I think it's a great trade in the end for the Rockets. They end up getting a real strong player in Durant, and it really, the pieces that they give up, Jalen Green, like I said, not going to bring the Rockets over the top in my mind to win an NBA championship. Dillon Brooks, just another veteran piece that they can make up for his loss. And then, of course, the number 10 pick, not really going to help the Rockets right now. They're trying to win a championship, in 5 second-rounders that really mean absolutely nothing, as the Phoenix Suns will draft a bunch of guys there. They get some picks back after they traded a lot of them for Durant and Bradley Beal in the end. And obviously, Phoenix is looking for a rebuild right now. Houston's looking for a trip to the finals right now in the Western Conference, and they really add a strong player in Kevin Durant. I think it's going to be a big move for the Houston Rockets, and it's going to be a difference maker for them, really trying to compete in that Western Conference and in the top of that Western Conference. A lot of tough teams there, but Houston, you would say, is really near the top right now, and they could be competing with a team like OKC if they stay strong next year. Of course, the Lakers are going to be in it. The Nuggets are going to be in it. You got the Timberwolves there as well. The Warriors are involved. A ton of teams there in the West, but Houston making a statement, going out and getting Kevin Durant and bringing him down to the Toyota Center. But that was not the only storyline in the NBA as well as the NBA Finals. When you look at tomorrow, the NBA draft is finally here, and it comes real quick after the end of the NBA Finals, but we're ready for it. Tomorrow night, it's going to start 8 p.m. in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center, and it's going to be the Dallas Mavericks with the first pick, and they're on the clock with Cooper Flagg being the consensus number 1 overall pick. He's going to go to Dallas, and what a player they are going to grab to add to their core that they think could still do some damage in the West as well. And they could be really competitive once they get those guys back from injury. I think Kyrie Irving coming back is a big part of whether the Mavericks could be really good or not. If he's not 100% healthy, that's going to hurt the Mavericks, I think, especially with Anthony Davis down low. You get Cooper Flagg now, probably playing the 3 or maybe even the 4, but they also have a lot of bigs down low. They have a lot of size, and that's going to be a difference maker. I think Flagg's probably going to fit best as the 3 there. You put Davis as the 4, and then you get a monster center down low, whoever's playing that day. Daniel Gafford, who they just signed to a nice extension. Derek Lively, who they'll have there as well. And Dallas really making some noise there. They're also having Klay Thompson on the wing. So a lot of experience paired with a real animal in Cooper Flagg, and Dallas should be ready to go next season. But there's a lot of other names going around right now after Cooper Flagg gets drafted at number 1. Dylan Harper looks like he's going number 2. VJ Edgecombe looks like he's going number 3. Harper out of Rutgers and Edgecombe out of Baylor. Both guys really athletic and can really be difference makers on their respective teams. When you look at after that, though, there's a bunch of names swirling around. Con Knipple being one of them. You also got Jeremiah Fears, the guard out of Oklahoma. Ace Bailey has been a huge talking point in recent days. Has yet to visit an NBA team facility and really has said, yeah, well, you know what I got. I don't want to go top three. And of course, the top three teams said, all right, well, perfect. We won't draft you. They're probably not going to draft him in the end. And VJ Edgecombe probably going number 3, Harper going 2, and of course Flagg obviously being the number 1 pick. They have Ace Bailey probably going in the 3 to 8 range, or the 4 to 8 range, excuse me, wherever he ends up dropping. A team's probably going to get a good player there, and Ace Bailey does have a lot of talent. I think he's going to end up being a solid NBA player. Really, the ceiling that Ace Bailey has could be capped right now with what he ended up doing and wanting to go to a team that's maybe a little bit lesser of a championship contender, but a bigger role for him in the end. And that can really go both ways on that, whether that's a good idea or a bad idea. But Bailey's going to be a big talking point wherever he goes. Probably going to put up plenty of points if he does go to one of those non-contenders. And of course, you got some more guys. Trey Johnson is really involved there. And the big guy that I'm going to talk about here in New York, Kamal MudWatch, who I think would be a perfect fit for the Brooklyn Nets, this hometown team. And of course, Kamal MudWatch, his presence in the paint at Duke cannot be understated. He was tremendous there in the paint, a phenomenal defender, really can anchor things on the defensive end down low. And also on the offensive end, he's got the ability to post up, great moves in the post, and he's an animal when it comes to cleaning up things off the rim. Nick Claxton obviously down low, and then the Nets have him locked down, but I mean, Kamal MudWatch would be a real strong presence there, and I think that's the best possible option right now for the Brooklyn Nets. So we'll see what happens, but that's really the top 8. Whether that goes in select order, who knows? But those are really the guys that you're looking out for. One more name that you're probably going to want to keep an eye on is Carter Bryant. Very athletic player out of Arizona, and I love to say it, an NBA body that he has. He is really built for the NBA, and obviously his strong body is going to be a big presence there for whatever team he goes to. That's another guy that can really jump into the top 8 and really swipe one of those guys down into the NBA draft order. I think that's a real guy to watch out for, and he could be a real impact player for any team, whichever team he goes to. Just the wingspan, the height, the weight, and the reach that he has, a real strong player. And like I said, the NBA body could really have an impact for Carter Bryant. So make sure you tune in to the NBA draft tomorrow. Should be a great one at the Barclays Center. And it's the Dallas Mavericks, number 1 overall. They're on the clock. Cooper Flagg going number 1. And what else will happen? What will be the surprises? We'll recap that on Thursday's episode. But that will do it for episode 85 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malum, and thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Thursday.